Welcome to Rachel Reviews Board Games. I'm Rachel, and today I'm reviewing Friday by Friedemann Friese. Friedemann Friese is probably best known for his game Power Grid, which is one of my favorite, though he's a fairly prolific and creative board game designer. This one is a solo adventure, meaning you play only with yourself and against the game, essentially. Though it is kind of a campaign too, because it gives you an option of keeping track of scores. You can score it and try and do better, and then also there's different levels you can do, which is a nice touch. It's a game I really like. It's, as I mentioned, for one player. It suggests 13 up. I think a younger player could probably grasp this, but I don't think they'd have the attention span to learn any game. I find with kids you really have to teach them. And then it's about 20 to 25 minutes. It says 25 minutes. Once you get it down, though, it can take less. So it's a game I really like for taking it. For example, if I know I'm going to be late for a board game meetup, or if I think I'm going to be at a convention where there's some downtime in between, it's a great thing to pack just to kind of settle that itch for gaming. So without further ado, I'm going to open it up, show you how to play, and then I will conclude with some more final thoughts. So here I have the game set up. With the game you get these pirate cards, and actually the one last thing I need to set this up is choose two of these pirate cards at random, and they represent your kind of final bosses. Then you get these life tokens. It comes with 22 of them, but you put 2 aside at the beginning of the game, and then this represents your life. So you can never have more than 22 life at a time, but there is ways of gaining life, and of course you will lose life throughout the game. You lose when you lose all your life points, and it's not when your last one is taken, is when you can no longer transfer, to the life lost pile. So after that, we've got these phase marking cards, which tell you what phase of the game you're in. And as you can see on this little helpful placard, you go through the green phase, then the yellow phase, then the red phase, and then you fight the pirates, as long as you haven't lost along the way. Here we have the aging cards, and on the bottom you have these 3 white kind of advanced aging cards, and you shuffle those up first and put them on the bottom. And then after that, you put the 7 brown aging cards on top of that. And once again, the placard is helpful in reminding you how to set up the game. And you just put that on the little placard. Here is your starting Robinson Crusoe deck, because the theme of this game is that you're Friday trying to help Robinson Crusoe gain skills so that he can ultimately survive and then get off the island. But he starts out actually very, weak, unable to do anything. And so your deck starts out with 0s and -1s, and you need higher card values in order to win the game. But there are a few 1s and 2s and gain life cards in there. But it starts off very weak, and so over time you're trying to strengthen your deck by fighting these monster cards. And these monster cards are double-sided. On this side is the amount of point values that you need to defeat the monster, and then once you defeat the monster, it goes into your discard, and then like other deck building games, it'll ultimately get shuffled into your deck with a point value here. So in this case it's 2, and also sometimes there's an ability here. This one doesn't have an ability, but the first playthrough you're going to be referring to the rule book a lot for what each of the abilities is, but after a play or two you've got them pretty down. They're pretty simple. So what happens in the course of the game is that you flip over 2 monster cards, and then you decide which one you want to fight and which one you don't. And the way you can tell if you want to fight it or not, basically, is that here are the free allowed cards from your Robinson Crusoe deck, and here is the amount of points that you need in order to defeat that creature and then incorporate it into your deck. So, and the number corresponds to the phase of the game you're in. So right now we're in the green phase, because that's the starting phase, so I would need to have a point value of 1 to defeat this monster, and then I would need a point value of 2 to defeat one. This one I get 3 cards to try and do it, and this one I only get 2 cards. The phase changes once you get through this entire deck you shuffle up the remaining monsters, and then it changes, the strength goes up for each of the monsters in each phase. So in this case, let's pick this one, the weapon, and then this goes into the discard. So you put this face up so you can see what you're trying to fight, and you get 2 free cards. So we put up a 0, so that's not going to help us, and another 0. So we are 1 point away from doing it. Now I have a couple of options of what I can do in order to further defeat this monster. I can either take one of my life tokens and get rid of it so that I can draw another card, and that goes on the other side of the card, so you know the difference between your allotted cards and then your extra drawn cards. I still don't have it. Or I can choose to lose to the monster, and what that means is I take the difference between my point values and what I need to defeat the monster. In this case is 1. So I would lose 1 life point, but for each life point that I lose, I can choose to get rid of a card and remove it from my deck. So maybe I would decide I'm going to lose to this monster intentionally and take one of my cards, the 0s aren't that great, and remove it from the game, or remove it from my deck so that it's stronger over time. And then these would go into your Robinson Crusoe discard pile, and because you lost the monster, this would go into the monster discard pile. Now another thing that happens is every time that you go through your Robinson Crusoe deck, you add one of these aging cards, and these aging cards are just bad things, like a -2 that really makes it hard to defeat monsters. And the way you get rid of Robinson Crusoe the aging cards is either by the same way as if you lose against a monster and you have a difference, and you can choose to lose life, use those life points that you're losing to get rid of these cards. But in this case, you would have to lose at least 2, you'd have to use at least 2 of your cards to remove it. So let's go through just a couple more examples. So I would flip this over and decide which one I wanted to do. Now this I would need 4, and I have barely any ones in my deck at this point, so that might be hard to beat, but I might want to do it so I can kind of thin my deck. And this one would let me draw 3 cards to try and incorporate it in my deck, and then I'd have the option of losing against that too. Or perhaps, if I'm very lucky, winning. So let's go with this monster. And I get 3 free cards. And you can stop at any time if you decide you don't want to draw any more cards because you've already defeated the monster, and a card that might not help you win would do it. So 1, 2, so now I'm at 0, 3. So I happen to win. So I take all these cards, including the monster card, and put it in my discard, and now it's part of my deck. And this one also has a special ability, it's 1 times double, which means I can double the value of any card that I'm using against a monster. So abilities get played. When you're playing them next to monsters to see if you defeat them, you just do what in Magic we call tapping, but you just turn it to the side to show that you've used that ability and attach it to another thing. So this would double the value of something else. So if I had these 2 out, if I had these 2 out and I were fighting a monster, it's a 2 and then a 2 with a double. I could tap this card to double the value of this, so that would be 4, 5, 6 total. So the double's pretty good. The last thing is that once you get through the red phase and you've gone through the deck entirely, you go and fight these pirates. And these pirates are really just like any other monster card, except they have difficult challenges. The rule book is written very well and it's very simple. As far as the component quality, I mean, I think it's cute. It does a good job of the theme of, particularly with the earlier cards of him, at first Robinson Crusoe has no skills and he looks like an idiot, and then as he gets better cards because he's learning how to survive, because you're helping him and teaching him how to defeat these animals, it maintains the theme very well. The cards are not, they're pretty thin and flimsy, but I actually kind of like that because it makes it pretty easy to shuffle, particularly since they're so long, and you can bridge them quite nicely. So I actually like that they're a little cheap. I like they include these boards, even though they're completely unnecessary. And overall, that's how you play. So that's it. You win when you defeat the pirates, if you do, Also, whether you win or lose, there's a system of keeping track of points to see how well you're doing over time. And they give you a little place to write down your achievements. I've played this more than 3 times, but I've only written it down 3 times, and it happened to be the times that I won. An ultimate win, I guess, is 80 points, and I have gotten 100 points once, but I've heard that's very, very rare, and I must have gotten very, very lucky. As you can see, the strategy of the game basically comes between which of the 2 monsters to fight, and then also if you want to win or lose or draw more cards, and how you want to most efficiently use your life points, either drawing cards or using them to thin your deck, but at the same time, the thinner the deck, the more you get aging cards in there. I should mention too that I think I forgot to say that a way you can get rid of cards or aging cards is that there is a special ability called Destroy that you can use so that you actually don't have to spend life points on thinning your deck. Overall, I think it's a great game for what it's meant for. It's supposed to be that filler when you're the only player that's available. That said, I am trading it away, not because I didn't enjoy it, but I've gone through about 5 times and it doesn't have the legs of some other games that I have, so I'm happy that I got it, but I'm also happy to trade it away. The thing that was a little more frustrating for me as far as liking this game is that I found that it was hard to decide based off of consequences whether any individual choice was a good or bad. In a lot of games you can, through the consequences, modify your strategy, but here it sometimes felt hard to tell. Was it because I chose to fight this monster and didn't? Was that the wrong choice? Was that the right choice? So it has that kind of push your luck element that makes it sometimes harder to learn to do better. But nonetheless, I've done fairly well at this game, but I've lost it a couple times too. So it does provide a nice challenge, and it fills a very special niche that very few games does. It's a solo game that can be played in about 20 minutes. So I highly recommend it if you think that you'll be in that situation ever. And that's it. Also, you get these really nice, I guess these are corn markers